Welcome back to the Menopause Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Gordon. Now, if you're watching the replay or on YouTube, thanks so much for being a part of the menopause movement. Today, we're going to be dealing with a bit of a sensitive subject, right? Nate Morrissey helps families deal with all of the household items left over after the death of a loved one. And we often don't want to think about what will happen when our parents die or even when we die. But today we're going to broach this difficult subject with Nate. Nate has been a professional pilot for 20 years, and since 2007, he's been a leading resource in estate liquidation within the Southern California area. Nate founded Blue Sky Estate Services after a plane crash took the life of his friend and mentor. Through this experience, he realized there weren't enough resources available to assist with the overwhelming burden of dealing with the home and the contents left behind after a loss. Since then, he's helped over 3,000 families. He's also been involved with nonprofit work since the age of 8 and continues to assist several national and local nonprofits. And during the podcast, we discuss a whole bunch of things, and one of them is a lifetime of accumulation that can be left over. Stuff paralysis, what to do first, using a professional service, how doing nothing and leaving the house empty can be a liability. Estate sale versus garage sale, what to look for when hiring a company to manage all the stuff, and things to look out for with a real estate agent. Dealing with the attachment that can happen when a home is filled with memories, especially your childhood home. Different types of homes, house versus apartment versus condo, for example. Storage units. Considerations before traveling to clear out a house. What we can do now to help our loved ones when we pass. Now, at the end of the episode, make sure you visit drmichellegordon.com/podcasts, where you can find the show notes, plus the links to any books and resources that are mentioned in the episode. And if you enjoy this episode, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast so you are always the first to know when each episode is released. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you for all of the 5-star reviews. If you haven't left a review yet, please take the time to review the podcast. This helps more women to find it and get the help they need during the disruption of menopause. No one should have to go it alone. And thanks so much for being a part of the menopause movement. Now let's get to Nate. Thanks a lot. Nate, welcome to the Menopause Movement Podcast.
Hey, just happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you live, who you serve, what you do?
Sure. Well, Nate Morrissey here. I live in Orange County, Southern California.
Yeah.
And I'm a professional pilot that started my own business 13 years ago, helping families after a loss deal with the home left behind. So what we specialize in is basically anytime there's like a life transition, like a loss of a loved one or helping a parent move, to post-retirement community or assisted living, we go in and we help the family decide, hey, what do I do with this home full of a lifetime of accumulation and a huge need out there, that I discovered, unfortunately, after I lost my grandparents a long time ago. And then after I lost a close friend of mine in a plane crash, that's when I really wanted to start a business helping families after a loss. And so there's a huge need out there, and there's really no education out there. It's hard to find information about it. So I look forward to, giving your audience all my top tips today of where to start and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, this is the menopause movement. And so we're all, kind of midlife people. And so we're dealing with aging parents. And, both of my parents passed on, and my mom actually was in assisted living when she died. So she didn't have a lot of stuff, but my dad had a lot of stuff. They had a house. They had just moved into assisted living, but there was just a whole bunch of junk, like we were going through, he had this trunk of memories, and there was like a engagement picture from when I was like engaged the first time. I was like, why did you save this? And then letters that I sent him from the 80s, and it's just crazy. And so,
a lot of people call it junk, try to say the nice word stuff, or even nicer to call it items. But everybody has a lot of things, and it's a huge burden. And I think
Yeah.
everybody kind of knows in the back of their mind, it's like, oh man, I'm going to have to deal with this someday, but I'll just wait for that day to come. But
Yeah.
what I find is people get stuff paralysis, and it's like, man, I don't even know where to start. But it doesn't have to be that hard. I've figured out an easy way, kind of sift through it all. So that's just what I'd love to tell the audience. And what I
Yeah.
found is I've helped over 3,000 families just here in Orange County. And most of the people that call me, I'd say like 85% are women. And, average age is 55 to 65, because those are the ones that are dealing with their adult parents. So, I think this will be a good topic for, the audience.
So my brother died suddenly in 2012, and we, it was really, really hard on my dad because he was, really close to my dad. And when we went into his house, it was it was like empty boxes and junk. The whole house was filled. It's like he hadn't cleaned his kitchen in probably 5 years. He hadn't, and it was just like stuff. I'd never seen anything like it. And when we went to talk to the lawyer said, well, this is pretty common. It's like just all this like garbage. I mean, it was the bathroom hadn't been cleaned in forever. So what do you do in that case?
I would say homes like that are about 20%,
Okay.
that they just haven't been taken care of, borderline hoarding. Well, let me back this up and that'll answer
Sure.
the question. So what I recommend to everybody, I mean, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, I can't give legal advice, but when you're just dealing with the home and all the items, my first tip and step is, don't get rid of anything yet. So, like in your situation, you went into the home, like what the family needs to do is just kind of take an overall assessment. It's like, okay, what's the situation here? And then identify what the family wants out of the home. So it's like, even if there's a lot of junk and trash and stuff like that, what I would do is get the family, and it's like, let's just say there's 3 siblings and stuff like that. You identify what you want and set a timeline. If you have family from out of town and stuff like that, it's like, hey, everybody, we got to go through mom and dad's house, but I'm giving you 30 days or whatever is reasonable to just identify what you want and remove it from the home. Because what you're going to do is you're going to see, okay, like in your brother's situation, it's like, if the family just removed everything they want, it's like, okay, now we can deal with everything that's left over. And then what's that plan? What do
Mm.
we do there? Instead of looking at it as this huge, problem, it's like, let's just identify what we want to remove it. Because what a lot of families start doing, and I'm going to generalize, like, for, a whole home filled with things, is families start, oh, we should start boxing up things for Goodwill or Salvation Army, which is totally noble. But you're just creating a lot more work, or it's like they start pulling everything out of the cupboards. And it's like, we don't have enough time in the day to show the thousands of pictures I have. But I mean, I help this family. I mean, this is normal. They pull everything out of the cupboards, everything out of the dressers, everything. So they feel that that's better so the family can see everything. And all that does is just create so much crud everywhere and clutter. It's really tough. So when you're going to bring in the professionals, because I'm all about bringing in the people that can help you, because a lot of times you're going to make money doing it this way, and or you're going to save a lot more by not pulling everything out. So, like,
Sure.
getting back to your brother's case, what I would have said is like, hey, just identify if there's anything in the house that the family wants, and then leave everything else behind for the next phase, and that's bringing in the professionals. That's what I recommend starting.
Yeah. How do you deal with the grief part of it? Right. I mean, because people are really grieving on top of that. And decisions, I think, are during the, the initial phase of grief, decisions can be really, really difficult.
For sure. So if the family has the gift of time, I say take it. So like, let's say it's mom and dad's house, the house is paid off, the siblings are, they're amicable or they all get along great, fantastic. Give it some time, let it settle, because if you move fast, it's too emotional. It's just, it hurts too much. It's like, just helping this family here locally, and 2 sisters, one sister was good to go, let's move, the other one needed time, and you got to give them that time, because it's just, they're always going to be hurting regardless, but if you can take a little more time to digest it, it's better.
Yeah.
So that's what I recommend. But for the people that don't have that gift of time and the families want to move quickly, there's nothing I can do to help slow that down. But
Yeah.
anything that people can do to ask for a little more time. But then on the other hand, what happens a lot is it just keeps dragging out too long. And like one thing I want to mention, and we're going to get into like what are the best phases of how to get help and stuff like that. But remember this, like if the house that you're dealing with, if it's going to be sold, if your parents owned it or your siblings owned it and stuff like that, the house becomes a liability, not an asset. So, and that's something really big to remember, because if nobody's living in the house, you don't know if there's a water leak and all this stuff or electrical fire or something like that. And you'd be surprised. And, I'm not here to sway anybody anyways, but I mean, like, I can't tell you how many times like ice line from the refrigerator, for the ice maker starts leaking and it floods the kitchen. But another thing too is like, at least here in Southern California, the real estate housing prices are still at a historical highs, but so what I see families wanting to take time, like they're okay with it grief wise, but they're wanting to, we'll just take our time, dealing with maybe $300 worth of stuff in the house when the house is worth $800,000. It's like, guys, really start thinking about this. Don't keep kicking this can down the line, because especially with COVID and all this stuff, I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen with the economy. So it's like, if you're in an area that you're going to sell the house, get moving, because nobody knows. I'd hate to see you wait a year to clear out the stuff in the house when you were okay with it now, and then it tanks. So, and let me know when you're ready, because I'll get into my phases.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm seeing I'm looking at your outline here. So after you decide what you want to keep, where would you go next?
Okay, so you do that, and then what I recommend is everybody take 2 or 3 pictures of each room of the home, including the kitchen, the living room, the garage, and the yards. And the reason I say that is because ultimately, I'm all for bringing in the professionals that can help you out, and this is why. And this isn't an infomercial for the Natester over here. It's just, like for the DIYers out there, the do-it-yourselfers, like, having your own garage sale, man, me personally, I tell everybody when they call me, I'll pay you $500 if you don't have a garage sale. That's how strongly I believe in it. Okay. Wow. I mean, like if you're into it, fine. But the problem is, what I always try to do is see, is there enough for an estate sale? So let's talk about what an estate sale is. An estate sale is when a professional company comes into the home. They're going to organize everything nicely and neatly, and then they're going to sell everything in the home. And then after the sale, the home is completely cleared out, which is a huge win. So it's like, again, if the family just went in there, removed a couple things that they wanted or whatever they want, and then if there's enough items for an estate sale, a professional company comes in and they handle everything. They're going to remove the stuff from the cupboards and organize and all that stuff. And so at the end of the day, the family is going to make money without having to do the work. Now, it's all right. I'll just explain a little more detail what an estate sale is. So most companies charge a percentage, like 30 to 40%. It depends on the area and stuff like that, which is a no-brainer. So if you're out there listening and you're like, oh, I'm going to save that money, you're not. Okay. You trying to do it on your own, you're going to lose money. And I got a good story about this one. My mom's close friend, her parents lived in Santa Monica here in Los Angeles, a nice neighborhood. And she's a retired teacher. And so her parents moved to a senior living community. And she's like, I'm going to do the sale. I'm like, Joni, you're going to lose money, but she's do-it-yourselfer. So she sent us a picture of the neighbor that walked into the sale, and it was Tom Hanks. Kid you not. Tom Hanks lived in that neighborhood, came and went to the sale. And I'm like, oh, Joni, she made like $6,000 or $7,000, but she probably would have made 20, and 20,000, that's not a normal estate sale. Most estate sales are a few $1,000s, but and most companies have a minimum. They have a minimum that they have to make. So if you're going to be reaching out to companies, ask them what's their minimum. And that's why I say take pictures, because what I want to do if you're the family is like, let's say, it's like, yes, I want to see if I have enough for an estate sale first. The problem is, let's say you call a couple of estate sales companies and you line it up over a couple of days, and you don't live too close to the home. It's a lot of driving back and forth. And then for the companies to meet you, it's like, sorry, you don't have enough. It's like, or some companies will have like a $10,000 minimum or a $15,000 minimum. And that's like higher end stuff. So that's why I say take the pictures, because then you can email these companies before and be like, let me know if you're interested in meeting. Because if you email a bunch of companies and nobody's interested, you can feel pretty confident that you don't have enough for an estate sale. But so the reason why most people have a minimum is it's a couple days of setup, a couple days for the sale, a couple days afterwards to clear out the home with 3 to 5 people each day. So you can see that labor amount. So even if it's a
Yeah.
$5,000 sale, if they take 40%, it's $2,000. It's not a lot for the labor on their end. So that's why there has to be enough items of value in the home to equal an estate sale. So that's why I say don't get rid of anything. Don't do your own garage sale. People call me all the time. It's like, hey, Nate, I already did a garage sale, got rid of all the little stuff. Now we're ready for an estate sale. I'm like, nope, shot yourself in the foot. Sorry.
Yeah. I look at paying people to help me as kind of an investment. That's always been the way I see it, ever since I started a business. And if I'm working with people and I'm not happy to pay them because they've saved me time or money, then there's something that's not aligned there, right? But for the most part, I like to hire experts because they're people who have been they do it every single day. And to bring in a surgical analogy, right? You don't want a family practice person doing brain surgery on you.
Nope.
Right. And from a medical, or just like you don't want somebody who has only done one pancreas removal in their whole career to take out your pancreas. Right. You want an expert to do that. And that's kind of where we are here, where you can, get an expert to come in and assess things. And that's what we ended up doing with my brother. And we made, I don't know, we made a okay amount of money on that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's fantastic, but I'll tell people out there, don't get disheartened because like here, like I said, I'm in Orange County, the median house here is 700,000. It's like, that may seem like a lot depending on where you are in the country, but I mean, like 700,000 doesn't get you a lot here in Orange County. Okay. Right. I mean, it doesn't, but my whole point with that is it doesn't matter the neighborhood, the zip code, or what the house is worth. You could have a $200,000 home that has like the best estate sale because mom was a collector of Disney gear, compared to a multi-million-dollar oceanfront home that just has some ornate furniture and nothing, but so, don't let that discourage you. So no matter what type of house it is, take the pictures and do that. I'll kind of talk about some of the items, like what makes an estate sale are small items, and decent things like collectibles, but like even things in the kitchen, tools in the garage, fishing gear, guns if they have it, stuff like that, like dad had a gun collection or something, because what a lot of people think is you have to have really expensive stuff, and that's not true. Just if the things are decent in quality and a lot of little things, because most people, this is like the biggest misnomer out there is people go, oh, well, mom had all this really great furniture. And it's like, furniture is the hardest thing to sell at an estate sale, because let's say you and I go to a neighbor estate sale, like we're looking for maybe something cool, a tchotchke or something. We're not looking for a dining room table set from the 80s. Yeah. Nobody is. Okay. So it doesn't
all that mass produced stuff.
Yeah. And I was helping a family. They had and again, guys, I mean, I helped this home. It was like a $6 million home, and they didn't have enough for an estate sale. They didn't, and it was like, it was all furniture. And it's like, this is going to be tough. $300,000 worth handcrafted Japanese made furniture in Japan, shipped over here in the 90s. Nobody wanted it. I got in touch with my furniture people and like Japanese art and buyers, and nobody wanted it. And so they got that whole house cleared out. Somebody offered them $1,500 to clear the whole house out, and they're ecstatic. So what's crazy is that's like whatever, $6 to $8 million home. But then again, you take, lower valued home with all the Disney stuff, and it's a $10,000 sale. So, but just keep in mind, furniture is the hardest thing to sell. And you got to be realistic with stuff, okay? Just because mom and dad paid something for this doesn't mean it's worth it. And I'm actually pretty surprised. Most people don't argue with me on that. It's very rare that people go, nah, this is worth way more. Thank you for your time. It's like, okay, most people are, they come down to reality pretty fast.
Oh, so that's good. All right. So what is the difference between a buyout and a clear out?
Okay, so I always start with, is there enough for an estate sale? Because again, that's where the family's going to get the house cleared out and they're going to make money. And one more thing about the estate sale, you want to make sure that any company you're going to use at the end of the sale, the house is cleared out. That's in the agreement. Okay, guys, because what happens is don't use anybody and don't go, oh, no, whatever's left, the family will go over. Because you could have 30-40% of the house left over. So it's like, nope, at the end of the sale, the house is cleared out. So if there's not enough items for an estate sale, or the house doesn't allow for it. And what I mean by that is, let's say if it's a condo or an apartment and it's on a it's too hard to get to, or the homeowners association doesn't allow it, or it's a gated community and they don't allow it. Then there's what's called buyouts, where if you can find companies in your area that are interested, what they'll do is they will come to the home, look at everything, and make an offer to purchase everything and remove it all. Okay. But you got to remember, let's just say there's $7,000 worth of items in the home. They'll give you about 1,000 and clear everything out, because there's a lot of labor to remove everything. And then they're trying to sell things off site. So that's a buyout. Those are harder to come by, but I just wanted to talk about that. So when your audience, if they're going through this and they're going to reach out to local companies, they could be like, we're interested either in a estate sale or a buyout. It's like, oh, these guys kind of know what they're talking about here. So that's a buyout. Where 85% of the families that call me fall in is there's not enough for an estate sale. And then we do what's called a clear out. So it's like, okay, now what? We got a whole home. There's not enough items of value for an estate sale. So what I try to do first is I try to donate, because I don't want to see mom and dad stuff going to the landfill. That's tough. So getting back to the whole emotional side of things, I do feel that, even when the family's grieving and they have all these connections to personal items, like I was telling Dr. Michelle, due to COVID right now, I'm here at my parents' house right now. I use their spare bedroom because my house, it's too loud with my twin boys that are 14.
Yeah.
So, I don't think you can see the wallpaper here and everything like that. But anyways, I think about stuff here at my mom's house, and it's like, when the day comes, it's like, man, this is the house I grew up in. I'm attached to everything. And it's like, okay, Nate, you're not attached to everything. It's like, no, I pretty much am. I'm attached to everything. But I would be sick if I can't have an estate sale knowing that this all went to the landfill. So it's like, I want to donate. I want mom and dad stuff to be helping my community, helping somebody in need, because that really makes me feel better. So that's where I start. I try to find local charities that are able to do this. And I'll send you a link. Salvation Army has a program. They don't advertise it to the public, but it's called the Real Estate for Rehabilitation Program. And if they have that in your neighborhood, and I can actually send you a PDF if you want to post it with all the instructions. It's fantastic. They do whole home clear outs at no charge to the family, which is just amazing. Oh, wow. So pre-COVID, they would come in and box everything up for you in totes and carts, and it was fantastic. They'll still remove everything from the home, but now all that has to be boxed up, at least in my area, Southern California. But it's fantastic because it's harder to find charities that'll come into the house and are willing to take everything. And it's a lot of work. If you just have a few things here and there, then it's a lot easier. But so I try to donate as much as I can, but that's why Salvation Army is fantastic. And I've actually become the number one referrer to this program in the nation. So it's
most of the podcast listeners are in the US, but then, we also have quite a few in the UK and Ireland and Australia. And so do you have any tips for the, people in those other countries? Like what is the Salvation Army in other countries? I don't even know.
That I don't know. But what I would do is whatever the term is in your country, like if it's a estate sale or, that might mean, nope, that's a home sale. But if there's any term that you can Google in your country to see, it's like, okay, estate sale companies or something like that, to try to find that. And then, of course, trying to find donations or charities that would take stuff. They could Google charities and stuff like that, and then just call around and start going, hey, do you guys pick up, or do I need to box everything up, etc. And it's interesting. I actually helped a woman in Ireland. She was in Dublin, that her aunt passed away out here and she was afraid to fly. And she was going to come all the way out here and all this stuff. And I'm like, save your money, because it was just a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. So I have a new friend in Ireland. But but so in your country, I would just say, search like estate sales or home clear out or charities, home charity pickups, house charity pickups, stuff like that, just to see if there's the local churches or any other type of organization that would be interested in that. But so then after the charity comes in, they take everything. They're not going to take trash and rubbish, so then it's time to pay people to remove the remaining items. So then, you could just do, like junk removal and, things like that. But what I would do is, especially the people here in the US, actually, this would work anywhere. When you reach out to the estate sale companies, if they're like, hey, sorry, there's not enough items, here, it's like, okay, do you have anybody that you recommend to do the clear out? because they have people that they use that should be pretty good. And a lot of times it'll save money over using the junk companies. Because like here in the US, there's like 1-800 got junk and these bigger junk companies, but it's kind of expensive compared to just finding, the
Yeah,
local people that can do it for you.
you can also order from Amazon and then you have to pay to have it picked up, but the actual garbage bin itself, it's like a, I don't know, it's inflatable. I don't exactly know how it is, but it's a bin to put all your junk in that you're getting rid of.
Yeah,
So,
that kind of goes back to my earlier point. Like, I don't want them to have to rent a bin. If they're the do-it-yourselfers, because what I find, like here in the US, like or here in California, to get a decent sized bin, it's about $500. It's
mm,
$500, because bins fill up fast. I mean, so if it's a smaller one, they're 125. But like if you're getting a big one, it's like $500. But it's like, man, possibly you could have paid somebody $750 to do all the work for you, and then you wouldn't have needed the bin. So that's
yeah.
what I'm trying to do. It's just really save people the time. So people ask, well, how do you figure out, the best options? And I could send you another thing. It's basically I always start with the estate sale. Is there enough for an estate sale? And then let's talk about timelines here for a little bit. So estate sales usually need about 4 to 6 weeks to meet with people and book it. So like what you want to do is especially if the home is going to be sold, prior to meeting with the real estate agent, start meeting with the estate sale companies because everybody should be on board. And if the real estate agent suggests it, try to have the estate sale first. Like what we find out here is the house shows way better once it's completely cleared out.
Mm,
Instead of the 80s clutter or 70s clutter look, let's clear it out, maybe paint inside or carpet, whatever, but do the estate sale if you can before. And for the real estate agents out there, I used to teach this to agents, and like most agents aren't really educated in this process. They may say they are, but they're not. Because what happens all the time is I get calls from real estate agents. I got 2 yesterday on Sunday. Hey, Nate, we have a house that's in escrow. We close in 2 weeks and we need an estate sale. It's like, ain't happening. Nobody's going to do that, but so that's a huge disservice to the family. So it's like instead of them maybe making a few $1,000s, it's going to cost them a few $1,000s to get the house cleared out. It's like, so, that's another pro tip. Get all this information figured out first. But so if you have time, like, so it's like, Nate, we can do this whenever we want. Start with an estate sale. Then if the timeline doesn't permit, or there's not enough items in the home to do an estate sale, or it's a gated community that doesn't allow it, or the homeowners association doesn't allow it, well, then it's easy. Your only options are either a buyout, which are kind of hard to come by, but really it's going to be a charitable donation and clear out. But what I do say though is like, if you can't have an estate sale, let's say dad had a gun collection. Okay, identify the things of legitimate value, $500 to 1,000 plus, and then sell those on your own or just take it back home with you. It's like, mom had a nice jewelry collection. It's like, okay, take it home with you, deal with it later. So it's like, okay, there's nothing of value in the home. We've removed the guns and the jewelry, which isn't hard to keep. We'll find buyers for that. Like, specialty gun buyers are going to a gun store or jewelry stores. It's pretty easy to find, people like that, sell it to. So that's what I would do, remove everything and then charitable donation and clear out route.
that's cool. All right. And then you say you have here on your the type of home. Did you cover that already?
Yeah, we did, but I'll just talk a little
Hmm.
more about it. So, I've helped people, and what's funny is like, not funny, but like people call me from all over the country. So that's why I learned really quick. My first question is, what city is the home in? Because I'm in Orange County, California, but there's also in Orange County, Florida.
Yeah.
So
And there's
people would
Orange
call
County, New
me,
York.
and I've had a couple calls from New York, interestingly enough. And so I'd be talking to them for like a half hour, and I'm like, great, what city's the home in? And I'm like, where's that? Well, it's
Mm,
Florida, it's New York. It's like, oh,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
so I have helped people in Manhattan that just randomly called me. So, but a good website to check out is estatesales.net. And just search your area for like hire a company and things like that. But that's a fantastic website just so you can see like the sales going on in your area, so you can get an idea of what's going on. Let's just say not an area like Manhattan, just any other area. Like apartments are hard to have a sale out of. And the reason, and sometimes condos, because the problem is parking. Like there has to be good
Yeah.
parking for an estate sale. So usually, in an apartment complex and stuff like that, there's not good parking. Also, too, if how easy is it to access the home or the unit? again, like coming to an apartment or even some condo complexes, it's like, well, it's on the third floor and you have to walk up these stairs, plus you have to go through a gate. It's going to be really tough to do that. Another type, mobile homes. Mobile homes can have its own difficulties at times. It just depends on how hard is it to get into the mobile home community. Not to say they can't have a good sale, but and if you're in a mobile home park or community, or your loved one's home is, talk to the people that own the mobile home park or run it and ask them if they know of anybody that does estate sales in that community.
Mm,
Because what I find a lot, especially with the mobile home parks, it's sometimes it's an older crowd, and they have people that are in the park that do this. Depending on the size of the mobile home community, we have a lot of mobile home parks here in Orange County, and it's like
mm,
I always tell them, ask first if you have somebody in that park that does it. But then when you reach out to the estate sale companies, I always ask how bad is the parking? Because if you can picture a normal home on a normal street, like if you're going to have 30 people plus or 20 an hour coming through, that's 20 cars.
yeah.
Parked. So on a normal residential street, it's okay. When you get to an apartment or condos, mobile home, it's tough. And then if the house is a gated community, they might not allow it. And it's like, well, the gated community isn't going to just be letting all these people in. So for sure, no go, but maybe they're allowed to do more of a private sale where they only allow like 5 in at a time, like every
Mm.
hour, et cetera, et cetera.
What about storage units?
Great question. So storage units, guys, I get the emotional attachment to stuff, but this happens all the time. People call me, it's like, Nate, I'm going to answer this two ways. People go, oh, I'm going to back this up even more. Do not let your real estate agent go, we're going to move this all into storage and worry about it later. We got to get the house on the market. Bad idea. Use a different agent. The reason is people pay thousands of dollars for the moving truck to move it off site, plus storage that you're going to keep forever. And you just, like, you could have made a few $1,000s, but again, now it's costing you thousands. So don't do that. Now, a lot of people already have storage units and it's not the whole home. So when you have a storage unit and you're ready to go through it all, you're not going to be able to have an estate sale. I mean, at that point, anything that's in the storage unit, I mean, unless you find a company that can do buyouts, but again, most people just have stuff and there's not a lot of value on the stuff. So if
Yeah.
it's like some pieces of furniture, some clothes, some books and stuff, like there's not a lot of value there. So there's not going to be the $5,000 to $7,000 worth of items most likely in there for an estate sale. So at that point, I'm calling the charity, like Salvation Army, and Salvation Army does a great job of, it's like, oh yeah, I meet them at the storage unit and they pick it all up. But guys, do the math on this. Don't be paying $200 a month, for $50 worth of stuff. If you no longer have the emotional attachment, get rid of it. Paying $2,400 a month for $100 worth of stuff. I'm not a math genius, but those numbers don't add up quite right.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So the other thing is that what about like my brother had a storage unit that was just more junk. It was just like a whole storage unit filled with junk. So, I mean, how often do you find that when you're doing these
A
cleanouts?
lot. I mean, I would say 10, maybe 10% of the calls, 10 or 15% of the calls I get weekly, people go, I have a storage unit. I need to, mom had a storage unit. And I tell them, it's like, listen, you're not going to make any money off this stuff, and I'm just being real with them. It's like, but if you call Salvation Army and get it cleared out today, you're going to save $200 next month.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Plus, guys, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this big thing. Look about the tax write-off when you donate everything in the house. Again, talk to your tax professional or CPA. But a lot of times, like I think right now the threshold is $5,000. Don't quote me on that, but it was before the tax laws changed that anything less than $5,000 in charitable donations, it wasn't questioned. Anything more than that, you had to have personal property appraisal done on those items.
Mm.
But I mean, if you look at it, depending on what tax bracket, if you donate everything, of your mom's home or dad's home, and say it's $5,000, that'll save you $1,000 or so on your taxes. And it went to a good home, which is way better than paying or trying to do a garage sale. Kiss of death.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
talk
for sure.
DIY options, but it's a win. It's a total win. Family stuff went to a good home.
So let's go to DIY then. Talked a little bit about why hiring a professional is good, somebody who does it all the time. But, let's say we just, we have people who just want to do it themselves, or there's only a few things, or
Okay, well, let's just separate this. I just want everybody to be clear. If you're that type that wants to do stuff on your own, just think about this first. If you want to have your own estate sale, no offense, love you all you ladies, but you don't know what you're doing when you're trying to do an estate sale. Okay. And this is why I say this. Don't take this the wrong way, guys. I have your best interest at heart. You don't know how to advertise for a sale. All right.
Mm.
You don't know how to price things for a sale. You don't know how to sell things for a sale. You don't know how to organize for a sale, and you don't know how to conduct a sale. So I'll drive my neighborhood on the weekends or whatever, and I'll see like estate sale, and it's on a cardboard with black poster paint, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh God. And I love going over there, and I'm like, this is. I mean, God bless them, they're trying, but they have half the house left over, and then they're screwed. So it's like, if you're into losing money and working harder, do it yourself. But now, and I would never say try to do your own estate sale. If it's just a few things, it's like, you know what, Nate, we can handle this. You know, we kind of like doing garage sales. I get it. And that's okay. You know, but just understand that, you know, you're going to have stuff left over and then have a plan to remove everything. But what I want to get across is the people that are out there thinking, I have to do this myself. You know, it's not what's in the best interest of the trust. And why I say that is a lot of people that pass away, they have a will or a trust, and the beneficiary or the executor, everything has to be done, you know, what's in the best interest of the trust. And it's like the best interest of the trust is hiring professionals, you know, because that's where you're going to get the most money. And then the DIY traps too is like people think it's like, oh, I can do this. Like I was helping a woman that she was a teacher, and her parents, where'd she live? I think Oregon, but her parents were here, and she came down, and her plan was to spend the whole summer here going through the house. And that's
Mm.
what she thought she had to do. She didn't know any better. So this was a trap. And I'm like, when I met with her, I'm like, do you want to spend the whole summer down here? She's like, no. Then I explained her all her options. She's like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then she went home in a couple of days and she never came back. You know, I told her, line up all the professionals you need to meet with now. And that's another tip. If you're going to be flying in, you know, you have to travel or something, have everybody lined up. You know, the real estate agent, estate sale companies, all this stuff lined up so you can meet with everybody you need to meet on that trip and be emailing them pictures, etc., you know, before you get to town. Because ideally,
Yeah.
what I try to do is I try to get everything lined up before the family even gets here if they're coming from out of town. But the other DIY traps, you know, doing your own garage sale, that's tough. Then getting your own bin, it's okay. But I mean, it's just a lot of work. Like if it's like, hey, you know what, we got a big family, we can hammer this out in a weekend. I'm okay. You know, okay, go for it. I just still think you could have saved time and money and a lot of work because, you know, I'm 42, but I don't want to be lifting a bunch of boxes all day and stuff. You know, I'm worried about getting hurt. You
Yeah,
know,
for
like,
sure.
so I don't know. Those are my traps.
Okay, so what about these options? Craigslist, eBay, Facebook Marketplace.
Glad you brought that up. So when you're trying to sell things like, so let's say we identified there isn't enough for an estate sale because this is the only way we're doing this. We can't get a buyout, so it's going to be a clear out / donation, but it's like, hey, we have some things. How much, you know, time do you want to spend on these things? You know, Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, I've sold a lot just personally on Craigslist, and it's okay, but you know, and Facebook Marketplace, but you know, you got to be careful. So it's like, just be safe. Like eBay, what I don't like about eBay is you got to ship it to people. I'm not interested in
Yeah.
that. You know, and it's like, oh, well, I mean, and then there's sites like OfferUp and all this stuff. So guys, let's talk about that in like auctions. Like you'll find these websites. It's like, oh no, send us pictures and we're going to auction everything off in your house. And it's like, just in the room I'm in that has hardly anything, you know, there's probably like 15 items. So it's like, what? Are they going to really come box up my lamp and ship it to Dr. Michelle? Probably not. I mean, that's just going to take forever and it's going to cost. Yeah. And so, guys, it's all or nothing at once. All right. So another thing, and then I'll get back to this. Like, if you're going to be selling the home, don't let the real estate agent go, oh, well, we want to keep them some things for staging. It's like, it's all or nothing. You know, everything. I mean, if it was a couple pieces, it'd be fine. But it's like, no. You guys can do the estate sale, but we want to keep all the furniture in the house. It's like, nope. Then there's not going to be enough for an estate sale. It's all or nothing all at once. You know, this is a woman's podcast. Like, you know, be careful, like selling on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. I mean, like that to me, I mean, it isn't the safest thing you could be doing. I mean, I think generally, like, we don't read a lot of crazy stories of bad things happening to people.
Well, I think it's not just women, right? Men get, you know, are subject to all sorts of scams, just like women are. So I don't think, I think anytime you're going to do anything online, you want to be careful.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. I'm more protective of my women audience because it's always women that are calling me.
So do you have any like freebie or any way, how do people get a hold of you? Do you have any sort of like, sort of a checklist for what to do, anything like that?
Yeah, it's my top tips. So
Mm,
I'll send that to you and you can post that to everybody. If you're here in the Orange
mhm.
County area or Southern California area and you got questions, feel free to give me a call. I'm not the expert when it goes to all the other areas. But, and then I have like my little flow chart. It's like, okay, what do I do and how do I do it? And
The
then,
algorithm.
my algorithm, and stuff like that. It's real easy, guys. It's not surgery like Dr. Michelle. It's really, I can send you that stuff. So,
Yeah.
you can post it, but just take your time, do some research, but get the help you need. That's like, I can't express that enough.
So the last question I have for you is really, what can we do now to kind of take the burden off of our loved ones when we pass?
Great question. There's a couple good books out there, that I'll send you to post. But basically, like right now, for those of you that don't have a trust, get a trust, or at least a will. And again, I'm not an attorney, but I've seen this a lot. Especially if you just have a will. I don't know, and don't quote me on this, but this is what I've been told since I'm not an estate attorney or a family law attorney. But if you just have a will, it's still going into probate. So here in
Mm.
California, if you just have a will, it still has to go through the probate process. So, the state has to get involved, act out everything, which is a bummer because it costs money and it takes time. So if you don't already have a trust, I would say get a trust because then you don't have to go through the probate process.
Just want to say that there are like free templates that you can get off of the internet or from like LegalZoom or, one of those places. Anyway, so you can, free legal templates on, that, you may have to pay a little bit, but the LegalZoom or, you can do a search for trust templates and you can just, they're like fill in the blanks. So don't think that you have to pay, thousands of dollars to start a trust.
For sure. I agree with that. And then also too, like spelling out who you want to get what. It's a lot easier when everything's spelled out. I mean, I would say probably a quarter of the time the families aren't talking well and it's just stinks. And it's like, no, mom wanted me to have that. No, she didn't. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
So if you're out there and you think there's going to be a problem down the line, maybe spell it out for the family. You're going to be gone. You don't have to hear about it, but that would be good too. Just identifying who. And then if you guys are interested in reading a book about this, there's a woman called Julie Hall. Her website is theestatelady.com. Julie is a good friend of mine. When I started this business, I read her books and I heard her broadcast on Dr. Laura. She was advertising on AM
Mm.
radio out here. And I'm like, I got to read this. So I read her book, got in touch with her. Long story short, we became friends and she mentored me when I was starting out. But she's got a couple of great books out there that talks about this. It's like the boomer burden or, basically how to get prepared and, for those that really want a longer plan. But I would just say, make sure your legal affairs are in order, but the trust is the big one, and then spelling out what you want to go to who, just save the fighting going down the line. And then if you want to take it a next step further, you could start lining up people. It's like, hey, but I mean, for the youngsters out there like yourself, that might be irrelevant out there, but definitely get a trust and start spelling out who's going to get what and who's going to handle what would be good.
What about decluttering now? What about like kind of getting rid of accumulation?
I'm kind of a minimalist myself right now. So it's like, that would be great. Just starting getting rid of the stuff. And then the paperwork, guys. Let's talk about paperwork real quick.
Yeah.
A lot of the people I'm seeing, like, the greatest generation folks, they didn't get rid of one piece of paper. I mean, there'll be rooms full of it. It's like, so for those of you out there now, start getting rid of your paperwork that you don't need. Identify what you need, identify how many years you need your taxes from, and shred
Mm.
everything else. There's mobile shredding companies you can call that they'll come do it right in front of your house, which is fantastic. But it's like, start decluttering, get rid of at least the paperwork, and then having all your important papers somewhere for your family, like in a folder that has everything. It has your will, if you have insurance, life insurance, just all that stuff, just so it's like, okay, well, I don't know where mom kept all this. I mean, I was just helping a family, like we couldn't find the pink slips for the cars. And it's like, oh, I mean, it's still doable to sell it, but it's like, man, it'd be really easier if we could find the pink slips and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
declutter, but get all your important paperwork someplace so somebody could just grab a file. And it's like, it's right here. I mean, that's what I have in my house. And my parents, it's like, this is the I'm gone file.
That's
So
great. All right. So where can people find you?
they could go to my website, blueskyestateservices.com. That's for like my local business here. But I'll send you all my stuff so that they'll have everything. But
That's
definitely
great.
check out those websites we mentioned. And if you guys got any questions, I don't mind anytime. Give me a
Yeah,
call.
yeah. No, this has been really, really enlightening. I think we're, we don't really want to look at the fact that our parents are going to die, but they are, and then we're going to have to deal with it. And so I really appreciate you coming on today. It's been really great.
The last thing I'll say, what I tell people is obviously when you lose somebody, it's a huge emotional burden. But the second one's coming and it's dealing with the stuff and nobody talks about that. Everybody's there for you for the first week or two, but it's like, man, dealing with the house is tough. But if you have the plan and the people in front, that can help you out, I just want to make sure everybody gets it. You don't have to do this alone. There's good people out there that can help you, make it happen. So now to help out your kids, just get rid of everything. Just live on an air mattress in your house for the next 3 years. That will really help everybody.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Nate.
I'll post my affiliate link to Coleman inflatable air mattresses. Okay.
There you go.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Now, if you have questions about the topics covered in this or any other podcast, I invite you to open a conversation with me via email at info@menopausemovement.com or on Facebook Messenger through my Facebook page at Dr. Michelle Gordon. That's DrMichellellegordon. I also want to invite you to join in our next beta group. Here at the Menopause Movement, we are always trying out new methods of teaching and the best ways to get on top of your menopause symptoms. We regularly run beta test groups where we create a learning experience valued at $2,000, but at no cost to you in exchange for feedback and testimonials. To get notified of our next beta group, simply sign up at beta.menopausemovement.com. And thanks so much for being a part of the Menopause Movement. I appreciate you.